So we all know the story, right? Macbeth murders King Duncan. But the real drama, the chaos, the beginning of the end, that all kicks off the morning after. In this deep dive, we're going to break down that single pivotal scene and watch the anatomy of a cover-up as it happens, and as it starts to fall apart almost immediately.
All right, so the deed is done in the dead of night. But now the sun's coming up, the castle is stirring, and the biggest question hangs in the air: what happens now? I mean, how do you even begin to control the story when you've just committed the ultimate crime? This is the moment where Macbeth's lies and his nerve are about to face their very first test.
And you know, there's a fancy literary term for a scene like this: peripeteia. It just means the major turning point, where the whole story suddenly veers off in a completely new direction. And yeah, Duncan died in the last scene, but this is where the consequences really kick in, and the plot starts to spiral out of control for Macbeth. Now, you'd think the scene would open with panic and screaming, right? But no. Shakespeare does something totally unexpected. It starts with a simple, persistent knock at the castle gate, and a very, very drunk porter who's about to stumble into the spotlight.
What Shakespeare is doing here is using a classic tool of the trade, comic relief. Right after the silent, brutal murder of a king, he throws in this bumbling, hilarious character to just break the tension. It's a wild shift in tone, from high tragedy to low comedy in a heartbeat.
So you have to ask, why? Why on earth would you stick a comedy routine right here? Well, that's the genius of it. That brief moment of laughter doesn't actually get rid of the horror. It makes it feel sharper. It's like a palate cleanser for dread. The shock is even greater when the tragedy comes crashing back in. And the porter kicks things off with this amazing line. He's grumbling to himself, completely hungover, and basically says, "Man, if I were the bouncer at Hell's front door, I'd be one busy guy." It's a dark little joke, but he has no idea how right he is. And this is where it gets so clever. This line is working on two different levels. On the surface, for the other characters, it's just a drunk dude's metaphor. But for us, the audience, we're in on the secret. We know it's not a metaphor at all. It's dramatic irony. He is, quite literally, the gatekeeper to a living hell that Macbeth just created. So the porter keeps riffing, and he imagines letting in someone he calls an equivocator. Now that word might just fly by when you hear it, but you've got to hang on to that one. It is absolutely central to what this whole play is about. So what the heck is an equivocator? Well, it's someone who plays with words to hide the truth. They don't technically lie, but they use ambiguous language to mislead people. They try to have it both ways, to swear in both the scales, just like the porter says. Someone who avoids a straight answer, who twists words to get what they want. Does that sound like anyone we know? Yeah? What about the witches with their double-meaning prophecies? Or more importantly, what about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, who are about to put on the performance of a lifetime pretending to be shocked by a murder they committed? They are the ultimate equivocators. And just like that, the comedy show is over. The porter finally opens the gate, and bam! The mood snaps right back to dread. Macduff and Lennox are here, and the discovery of what's behind that chamber door is about to unleash absolute chaos. Before anyone even finds the body, Lennox describes how insane the night was. Chimneys were blown down, you could hear strange screams on the wind, the earth itself was shaking. And this is so important because in Shakespeare's time, the king was seen as God's deputy on earth. To kill a king was to commit a crime against nature itself. The world is literally freaking out. And then it just ignites. Macduff's scream of horror is the spark. He yells for the alarm bell, waking the entire castle. Lady Macbeth rushes in, playing the part of the shocked hostess. Banquo appears, completely horrified. In an instant, the castle erupts in panic, and the cover-up begins. Okay, showtime. The whole castle is awake, everyone's terrified, and Macbeth and his wife have to step onto their makeshift stage and convince a very captive audience that they are innocent. This is their opening night. But then Macbeth goes off script. In what he claims is a fit of righteous rage, he kills the two guards outside Duncan's room, the very men they just framed. This was not part of the plan. It's an impulsive, incredibly risky move, and now he has to explain why he just silenced the only witnesses. So when Macduff asks him point blank,
Why did you do that? Macduff doesn't just give an answer. He delivers this incredibly poetic, over-the-top speech. He claims his violent love for Duncan completely overwhelmed his reason. He's asking, who could possibly stay calm and rational when faced with such a terrible sight? Let's just break this performance down for a second. First, he hits them with that rhetorical question, trying to make his fury seem like the only possible reaction. Then, he uses these beautiful tragic metaphors, describing Duncan's silver skin and golden blood, to prove his deep love and loyalty. And finally, he uses a simile, calling the murder a breach in nature, which cleverly makes his own act of vengeance seem like he's defending God's natural order. It's a masterclass in manipulation. But you know what? Macbeth's speech is good. Maybe a little too good. It's a bit too flowery, a little too rehearsed. And even in the middle of all this chaos, the first tiny seeds of suspicion are already starting to be planted. The cover-up is already starting to fray. Yeah, Duncan's own sons are definitely not buying it. Malcolm and Donalbain whisper to each other that they're not safe here, that the nearer in blood, the nearer bloody. They realize the killer is still in the room, smiling at them. So they make a snap decision. They flee. But the tragic irony is that their escape makes them look guilty, and it perfectly clears the way for Macbeth to take the throne. And all the while, the natural world is still in revolt. Later, we learn about even more strange events. A noble falcon was circling in the sky and was suddenly attacked and killed by an owl that normally just hunts mice. Do you see the parallel? A noble king murdered by his lesser subject. The world is literally upside down. And then comes what might be the most crucial line of the whole aftermath. When he's asked if he's going to Macbeth's coronation, Macduff gives this quiet, simple refusal. No, cousin, I'll to Fife. He's going home. By refusing to go, Macduff is the very first person to publicly signal his distrust. It's a small act of defiance, but it means everything. Which leaves us with this final thought. Macbeth got what he wanted. He has the crown. But it's built on a foundation of lies and blood. The cracks are already showing, so it really makes you wonder, when you build a throne on a lie, how long can you really expect to keep it?